I'm going to talk to you this morning about collaboration. But before I start, I actually wanted to ask you, the audience, a little bit of audience participation. What are the biggest barriers to collaboration within your organizations? And I'm actually going to pause for a moment, and we're going to turn to the person next to us, and we're just going to talk for just 1 or 2 minutes, preferably someone that you don't know, about what you feel are the biggest barriers of collaboration. So I'm handing over to you guys now. So talk to the person next to you and just have a talk about within your businesses. Maybe this doesn't work for Googlers, but for the rest of you, about what, hopefully there's no barriers there, about what are the biggest barriers within your organization for collaboration. I'm just going to give people 2 or 3 minutes to do that. Okay, guys, hopefully, this is always the problem. Like at the start, nobody wants to talk to each other, and then nobody wants to stop. So hopefully people made some new friends there, and which I think there was, and new connections, and talked a little bit. Maybe people could throw out some of the ideas. We're going to use the Jamboard for this. What were kind of some of the things that came out of the conversations? Who wants to be the first?
I would say that 2 biggest hurdles are silos mentality.
Silos, yeah. You guys get to see my terrible spelling. My parents are teachers, they'd be horrified. Yeah. Anybody else? Any other? Adoption of new technologies, yeah. Anyone else? What was that? Decentralized? Decentralized sort of team. Again, the distributed teams kind of idea. Yeah. You got 2 takes for that. Anybody else? No? Was that it? There's no more barriers to collaboration? Any others? Location, yeah. Cool. Okay, so hopefully that got you guys thinking. And I want us to kind of hold some of those ideas in our heads as we sort of move through this. And we'll come back to it. Someone else collaborating on the other side. Thanks, Phil. Very good. Your demo's next. Stop it now. Come on. This is my turn to shine. So I just want to be able to kind of hold those ideas in our heads as we talk about collaboration. Some of the challenges that we have within our own organizations, and how we might use technology, such as Google's, to solve some of these challenges or problems. So my company is Dams in Cloud. We're a Google partner. We've been a Google partner actually for 10 years, so we're one of the longest standing Google partners, definitely in Ireland. And my work is primarily around sort of work being reimagined. And what we want to do is to help organizations with this cloud workplace where boundaries are broken down, and that work is no longer a location, and that it doesn't really matter where you are. I focus on change management and business transformation. That's sort of my area of expertise, and bringing this new way of working to organizations, particularly looking at outdated business processes. So we work with a lot of companies, even who are already on G Suite for many years, and we look at the processes that they have and see how they can be mapped to G Suite. And we'll be talking about that in more detail later on. Our mission as a business is to help organizations leverage the cloud to drive real digital transformation. We have operations in Dublin and London, hence why the Creative Collaboration Summit was in these 2 locations. I don't think any of you here are heading to London next week, no? But our team will be, and some of the Google team, to bring this event and story to London as well. So we have 3 pillars within our business. The first is migrate. The second is secure, and the last is innovate. And migrate is really about de-risking your move to the cloud. So for a lot of organizations, they feel that it's a huge challenge moving to the cloud, trying to break down some of those collaboration barriers we were talking about. There's a lot of fear around moving your information and your data. And so using or leveraging our expertise allows you to de-risk that. And we have some of our customers who are speaking here today, and some other ones who've joined us who can hopefully attest to that as well. Security first. I think the security question always comes up when cloud is mentioned, and I think it used to be a huge concern for a lot of companies that maybe the cloud wasn't as secure. I think that story has changed. Now we can move your information to the cloud and actually make it more secure. And Google has systems and ways that they have proven this to be true. And then the last one is digital transformation, and this is what I always want to get to. I know we have to do the other stuff. We've got to migrate your data. We've got to secure your systems. But for me, I focus on digital transformation. So helping you leverage the most from the investment that you've made within the cloud is really what that piece is about. And I'll be talking a little bit more about this later on. Obviously, our main partner is Google, and we appreciate that Google has given us this space for the event today. But we also have some other partners like Hapio, CloudM or Cloud Manager, CloudLock, General Audit Tool, actually, who are based here in Dublin, and Backupify. This is just a few of them. And all of these companies are Google partners as well. So these are what are called ISVs, and they make technologies that integrate with Google and sort of extend the capabilities of the tool. Some of our customers, obviously we've got two here today, the Irish Examiner and Walls to Workstations, who we're going to be hearing from later on, and really just telling their story. And I think it's interesting to hear from ourselves and from Google, but what most customers want to hear from is their peers. How have other organizations who've been on this journey gone through this process, and how has it worked for them? Some other companies that you might recognize, Brown Bag Films, Morgan McKinley and Daft, just to name a few of our Irish customers. So, digital transformation. When we think about digital transformation, a lot of us are kind of focused on collaboration. That's primarily what we're looking at. And collaboration comes in these sort of two extremes, this synchronous collaboration and asynchronous collaboration. Synchronous collaboration is live collaboration. So what we were doing earlier on, when you guys were sharing ideas, when we were writing stuff up on the Jamboard, and asynchronous collaboration is collaboration with a time delay. So there's some sort of delay between the collaboration. It's got nothing to do with the location or where you are. You can do either in the same location or remotely. But with asynchronous collaboration, there's a time delay. So an example of that would be sending an email with the document attached, someone making some changes, and then the person sending it back to you. And most cloud tools, and particularly G Suite, are trying to push us towards that synchronous collaboration, that live, real-time editing. That's where the kind of magic happens for us. And that's where we begin to break down these silos and barriers that we spoke about earlier. Now, when it comes to digital transformation, a lot of organizations focus on the technology. And the technology is really important, but it can't happen on its own. We can't get through digital transformation without looking at two other areas, and that's processes and people. And it's only when we look at these three together that we get the kind of magic digital transformation in the middle of it. Now, for a lot of people, there are different definitions of this. You may be familiar with it if you're familiar with change management, this kind of slide. But I wanted to kind of break down into our collaboration or digital transformation map what particular areas within people, process, and technology that we're talking about. This isn't an exhaustive list, but it might just give you a better idea of what we're talking about. Now, the big one within people is leadership. So in order to have real digital transformation, your leadership have to be behind the transformation, don't they? You're not going to get to a point where your organization is transformed if you don't have the leadership team behind the collaboration or digital transformation. The culture of your organization. So the culture of the organization can lend itself to collaboration, or it can hamper collaboration. Again, if teams are remote or distributed, that makes it more difficult, doesn't it? So all of these areas can either help your organization collaborate or they can hinder it, and maybe they're areas that you need to work on. Next, we have skills. So the skills of your employees. Do they require particular training or support when a new technology has been brought in? I think probably Dave and Larry will attest to this. When you bring in new technologies, you need to do that change management piece. You need to support those users. You need to communicate with them, and you need to give them the training that they require. Process. Within this, we've got things like business model. So the business model of an organization can again lend itself or hamper collaboration within the organization. Again, if an organization is a retail, for example, they're very distributed, so collaboration becomes much more difficult. If you're all in one location, obviously that makes it easier. Policies and processes. This is an area that we work on a lot, along with kind of the culture and skills with our customers. And we do these things called digital transformation labs, and I'm going to be talking about them later on in a little bit more detail, where we actually look at those outdated processes to try to improve them and map them to the new technologies such as Google. Next, we have costs. Obviously, a lot of these things cost money, and the leadership team need to be able to put in place the cost. But I don't just mean costs of maybe buying the app. I also mean resources. So is your organization resourced to actually support you in this digital transformation journey? And then next we have the technology, which is the core tools like Google. So looking at collaborative tools and cloud-based tools that allow you to collaborate and break down those collaboration barriers. And we're going to explore these later on. And then other things like admin and IT and infrastructure, and some of you in the room are IT people, and so you'll be familiar with this. Examples of this might be, if there's a VPN that's required to log in, that's a barrier to collaboration. That's something extra the person has to do in order to access their documents. I can take out my phone and I can access all of my documents for work, all of my emails, all of my calendars, and it's still secure, but there isn't this extra step that I have to go through. And infrastructure. We know this all too well in Ireland. Is your broadband connection good enough? I have my broadband go down the last couple of weeks, and it's been extremely frustrating. So having things like backup broadband in place, and also devices as well, you would perhaps include in the infrastructure piece. So hopefully that's kind of giving you an idea of the sort of digital transformation map or journey. Now I kind of want to dive into G Suite and transforming work. I'm just going to take a quick pause to have a drink. So within G Suite, I want to just talk quickly or initially about how the workplace has evolved, because it really has changed. When we think about the workplace only 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, it was a very different place, wasn't it? And we had, in the 90s, we had desktop computers, we had limited storage, maybe not everybody actually had access to a computer. And then with mobile devices now in the 2000s, that has just accelerated so quickly. I was kind of thinking about this the other night. I got my first iPhone in 2008, which is the year before my son was born. And he asked me when he was about 5 or 6, he said, "Dad, do they have iPhones when you were a kid?" I was like, they only just came out, like just before. I was like, no, they don't, definitely not, But like, he doesn't know a world without tablets and smartphones. That's just not something that's he has experienced. And so it's interesting, because I do still have some old technology that I like to show him sometimes. I love those Ellen DeGeneres ads or shows where she gets the kids to look at the old technology and they try to guess how old it is. They look at an old phone and say it's like 1,000 years old or something like that. But I think it's amazing how much has changed in such a short space of time. And the question is really, what's next? Do you know what I mean? If back then we couldn't have imagined how iPads and mobile devices and tablets have changed the way that we work, can we imagine what it will be like in 10 or 15 or 20 years' time? Personally, I feel it's going to be around things like AI and machine learning, which we're going to talk a little bit about later on. But I think it's an interesting question. What will work look like in 10 or 15 years if it's so different from 10 or 15 years ago? And then also the workplace has changed, hasn't it? There's a huge amount more of millennials. 70% of millennials feel that flexible working would make them more productive. And over 40% believe that working remotely or virtually would also make them more productive. And so these people are coming into the workforce and they have an expectation of these types of collaborative tools, because they've been using them in colleges and at home, and they come in, and if they've got these more traditional tools, they don't understand them, and they don't understand why they can't more easily collaborate with their colleagues. And then we've got the kind of digital transformation moving beyond storage. So before they used to talk about digital transformation as just getting your stuff onto the cloud. And that's great, and it's important. But I think we need to move beyond that. We need to move to giving our employees collaborative tools, to moving away from these legacy systems that are reducing productivity. And when we look at it, Forrester actually did a study recently and found that the same tasks for employees were requiring 1 to 2 hours more per week when they didn't have access to collaborative tools. So people are actually being slowed down by these outdated systems that organizations are using. And then the kind of coming back to that same question of what's coming, will the status quo lead your company to success? And I think very often we know where we want to get to, but we're not always sure about how to get there. And I think that's the challenge for a lot of organizations. Obviously, we believe that G Suite and Google is the platform that organizations should look to, and providing a platform that changes behaviors and drives adoption across the organization. Google's sort of 3 key areas are create, share, and access, and I'm going to be kind of going through these in more detail now. So create, connect, or share, and access, and then for the IT folk in the room, the control. Okay, so I'm going to dive into these areas in a little bit more detail. So within these, we've got culture of collaboration. That's what the create is trying to do. The connect, intelligent productivity, connected knowledge, and then simple and secure management. So within culture of collaboration, we're trying to move beyond this outdated way of working, this version control. And I think this is a huge challenge for a lot of people. When I go into organizations and they're still working in this way, and they don't realize that there's another way to do it, it's extremely frustrating for people. And it's interesting when people have used collaborative tools and they have to go back. That's the most interesting when you kind of get that, oh, I have to go back to using this, and it's interesting because the statistic there is that by 2020, 50% of employees will be working remotely. So it's even more important that the distribution of teams is becoming more commonplace. And with tools like G Suite, you can actually have live collaboration. So if you've ever used a Google Doc like this, you can see that the teams can work in real time, and that's really the place that we want to get to. And then with tools like Jamboard, which we have 2 here to demonstrate after my talk, and things like Hangout Chat and video conferencing, we'll be demonstrating some of those later on as well. But the teams can really work as if they're in the same location, and that's the value or the point. People are losing time on mundane tasks. I think these are really interesting stats. 8 hours a week just trying to search and consolidate information, and 11 hours a week just reading and responding to emails. And this is such a huge amount of wasted time. And with Google's technology, it's incredible how easy this is. It's allowing people to focus on what matters. I don't know if you've ever seen this quick access tool. I love quick access. It's incredible. So what Google is doing here is it's using its machine learning technology to look at what it is you need or want based on your calendar, based on what you've edited recently, all of these different factors, and it's surfacing that information to the top. So when I go into my Google Docs, this slide deck was just there because Google knew that I had the Creative Collaboration Summit today. It's got the same name. This is probably what he's looking for. And so it was the first document there waiting for me. And then the next one is Gmail Smart Reply. The Smart Reply is a really interesting tool. When it first launched and I had it on my phone, I was kind of like, I don't know if I'll use this. I don't like the idea of this thing telling me what, predictive texting sort of, what I'm saying. And it didn't feel like what I would say. It felt kind of, almost like a robot. And then as it saw more of my emails, it started to get cleverer. And I was like, hey, that is kind of, I'll click on that one. That sounds like something I'd say. And then, after a couple of weeks, I was like, oh, that's even more. Eventually robots will just be talking to robots. But anyway, I don't know if you've seen the Gmail Smart Compose, which is the next step of this. When you're actually writing an email on a desktop, it also is predicting the email, and that has been amazing. I wrote a full email the other day. It was a paragraph, and I think I only typed 6 words because I was like, oh yeah, that's what I want. Tab, tab, tab. This is perfect. So these types of technologies are trying to stop this previous one, the searching and responding to emails. So the other one is third-party apps. I don't know if you've used third-party apps in Gmail, and this was launched recently. It used to be kind of a contextual gadget. It was slightly different. But the Gmail add-ons now actually allow you to look at third-party information from within your inbox. So most of us work within our inbox, don't we? That's generally where we are. And what this is doing is actually allowing you to not just see, but edit and take actions on another tool outside of your inbox. So this could be a CRM system for salespeople. It could be a PO system. It could be an accounts package. But it's allowing you to stay within your inbox and where a lot of the information is that you need, and save contact information and things like that into these other systems. Next, we have connected knowledge. So Connected knowledge is really about a lot of the stuff actually that you guys brought up when we were talking about the collaboration piece. The siloed information, the fractured communication, and the scattered files. Again, coming back to that inability to find the information. So with tools like Team Drive, it's building bridges across the organization and allowing people and giving access to the right information across the organizations. And a lot of our customers have deployed Team Drives and they've actually removed the requirement for their file servers. And that's been amazing for me to see, because that's been the sort of, cloud server, or server in the cloud nirvana that we've always been trying to get to. And it's finally happening with Team Drive, which is amazing. And then what happens when your data is in the cloud? So when it's in the cloud, you can actually do some interesting stuff with it. So with stuff like cloud search, you can search across all of the products. If you've ever seen the cloud search tool, I'm amazed at how many customers don't know it's there, but you can actually search across mail and calendar and contacts and sites across the entire suite. And so it's giving that amazing search technology. Where do we go on the web when we want to find something? We go to google.com. You now have that same amazing search technology built into your business. And also within, in the summer, Google announced an update to Google Cloud Search where you're now going to be able to connect data from your internal systems. So this is quite interesting, and I'm interested to see how customers use this over the next year or so, connecting those siloed databases or getting that access to that data that maybe people previously weren't able to access. And then the last one is Google Plus, where people are able to share ideas internally, and Google Plus has been hugely successful internally with organizations as this sort of internal social media tool or system. And then making better decisions. I'm going to be demoing this later on. I don't know if any of you have ever seen the Explore feature in Google Sheets. Has anyone used it out of interest? Obviously, the Googlers have. Is anyone who's not a Googler? No? Okay. So this Explore feature is really cool. It's in docs and sheets and slides, but I think the one in slides is probably the most useful. Although the slides one is pretty cool as well. It actually helps you to make your presentation. So what it does is it's bringing in Google's AI technology into a Google Sheet. And when you need to sort of parse data or take information out of your data, instead of having to know these sort of complex formulas within spreadsheets, you can actually just ask it a question. You can ask a question of the data and using your normal natural language, and Google will pull that information out for you. I think it will make more sense when I demo it later on. It's amazingly impressive and great for just parsing that through that information on sheets. Next, we have simple and secure, and again, for the IT people in the room, this is probably an important one. Security is a huge challenge, I think, for IT teams, and by 2020, they believe that about 30% of successful attacks will be shadow IT. And shadow IT is something that is a challenge for everybody, but it's something that we see a lot in our customers who are kind of pre-Google. And in many cases, IT teams don't even realize that shadow IT is being used. We'll talk to IT teams and say, no, we don't. Dropbox isn't used in our organization, or personal Google accounts or anything like that. We don't allow that. And then we come in and we do some investigation and we work with some of the teams, and we actually find that in most cases there are teams using these tools. And that's the problem with shadow IT. It's outside of IT's control. It's outside of your visibility. That's why it's called shadow IT. And then once your information is being held in those systems, it's outside of the corporation and outside of the corporate control. So what we try to do within G Suite is give you this central management so that there's one central control panel that you can use to manage all of your users and manage all of your data, while giving your employees what they want, which is the collaborative tool. So though this is the tools that many of your employees want to use, but obviously you as the IT teams need to have this kind of control. You've also got things like Google Vault, which is a full archiving solution. We'll keep a copy of all of the emails in and outside of the organization, and then full mobile device management. So again, allowing people to BYOD, bring your own device to work, or corporate devices, and for you to have that control that you need over your corporate devices and information. And then also coming back to the AI piece, because I think this is an important one, Google actually uses AI to reduce the risk of phishing and block phishing attempts, and within the reporting. So giving you interesting reporting and analytics and trying to surface that security information for you. And many of our customers will be familiar with these tools. So I'm going to finish off with the kind of partnering for success. So I mentioned Google's partner network. and Google have put a huge investment over the last 10 years into the partner ecosystem. And we have seen from the beginning in Dublin, I think there was only 2 of us, and between Ireland and the UK, 5 or 6 partners in a room, to now thousands and thousands of partners around the globe who are supporting customers, moving their data, helping them collaborate and digitally transform their businesses. And it's all using Google's sort of methodologies. So the methodologies around engaging the stakeholders, deploying the services, growing the adoption, and then measuring and promoting the success. And this ensures for you that there's a high return on investment. So I think you can see, or hopefully you can see, that the Google tools are hitting a lot of the digital transformation journey pieces that we were talking about, the technology, the process, the people. It's hitting a lot of those areas. But what we often work with customers is around the people and the process piece. And I just wanted to talk briefly or finish off with the Transformation Labs. So Transformation Labs are a way of sort of kickstarting the innovation, and particularly for customers that maybe have been using G Suite, but they only using the kind of mail and calendar bit, or maybe when you're starting your migration to sort of kickstart that innovation in the organization. And Transformation Labs are essentially a half-day workshop. You're primarily looking for a minimum of 15 people. At best, for the best outcome, you want them to be in the same team, so the HR department or the marketing department. You can do a cross-departmental one, but it is just a little bit more of a challenge because obviously the particular processes that they have may be different. If you can find 2 departments that are kind of overlap, that's usually the best. Do you know what I mean? And essentially you go through a process of 4 things: inspire, discover, prototype, and iterate. The inspire piece is around showing people or the team that you're working with how other organizations have changed their business processes and started this digital transformation journey. And then the discover part is actually around discovering your business processes. So what are these business processes that you need to work on? And also trying to find what we call the quick wins. So the ones that are going to have the highest impact and be the easiest to actually implement. And then the prototyping bit is where we prototype out a solution really rapidly. And again, this is sort of Google's methodologies. And then the iterate piece is that really just teaching people that this isn't a once-off process. It's actually something that you do continuously. This is the quick win. So we actually get people to put their processes, each one of these little process, on the ability to execute. So is it really hard and you're going to need a development team and it's going to take 6 months, or is it super easy because we just need to create a Google form or a Google Sheet? And then also, what's the impact it's going to have? You know, by changing this process, is it going to really impact your team and make them super efficient and collaborative, or is it really not going to have much of an impact? And so we're trying to find those ones that are up in the quick wins. And I decided to use the photos from the Waltz Workstations ones. Hopefully that's okay, Dave. Because we ran a transformation lab, I think maybe a year ago, was it? Yeah, about a year ago. And so these are some of the business processes that the guys have brainstormed out. And then these are the ones up here. They're actually, we've taken them down because they're working on them, that they're going to work on because they're the kind of quick wins. And we actually had Raheem remote in, didn't we? So sort of trying to show that true collaboration. One of the teams here where Dave is, you can see the corner of the TV. They had a big screen, and we had one of our colleagues video conference in, and he was working with that team remotely. And I thought that was kind of a nice way of showing the technology off as well. And so then the team prototyped out. This is a training management site that they did. So they're going to use Google Sites and Google Calendars and Hangouts and Drive and stuff like that, and all the different products. And so it's an interactive workshop. It's very, very powerful and a great way, as I said, to kickstart the transformation within your business. It can be done before you move to Google, or if you've been on it for a while and it's something that maybe you want to sort of reinvigorate the team and look at those outdated processes. And just one last thing on that, I find it interesting how excited people get when they actually get to look at their processes, because they very often have not gotten the chance to do that. Do you know what I mean? Maybe these processes have been in place for 10 or 15 years, and so people actually get really, really engaged with this process, which is great. And so I just want to leave you with, where do you want to start? Is it more productive meetings and communication? Is it collaboration? Or is it the kind of total transformation package? That's it from me. I hope I made it short and sharp and interesting. I'm going to hand over to Sylvie now, who's going to do the Jamboard demo, and we're going to switch out the screens, and then I'm going to be demoing G Suite. We're going to sort of interlude into that. Hopefully, it will hopefully be seamless. Anyway, thanks very much, everybody.